The Man Manual, dedicated to all the Khalifas, goddesses, and women who still believe in us. Regardless of what some of our confused and hurting brothers are saying, this truly isn't your fault, or ours really, but we do take accountability for the current state of our community because that's what men do. A new foundation is on the rise. And as a result, the world we build will be a safer place for you. For we as men take accountability. And we know that we must first build the house before you can come back to it. The Man Manual. The letter A. A is for alpha. Who is the alpha male? I'm an alpha male. You really take a moment to think about it. Is this a statement that you ever really hear men say to one another? Is this because alpha men no longer exist? Of course not. This world is full of unknown, unnoticed, and uncelebrated alpha men who are and have been the spine of not only the economy, but also the family and the ecosystems within all of nature, and nations as well. Which is why it's necessary for us to define and rediscover what an alpha truly is within our society, lest we lead those coming behind us astray. It's really no secret that at this time, the main character in the mainstream media has become, well, it's become Medea. Now, understandably, one might ask, in the world is that supposed to mean? Now, I do say this with all due respect to Mr. Perry and his accomplishments, but the Medea complex template has become a subtle template within media for black men specifically. And this is occurring across multiple fields of entertainment and in many different narratives. Notwithstanding in all truth, barring any facetiousness, there wouldn't be anything at all wrong with this except for the fact that a feminine male main character leading role complex in media has gone far beyond just movies and is now center stage in every form of entertainment and in actual life in society. While the actual masculine voices, roles, and characters are being suppressed or in many cases removed completely, especially as far as black men are concerned. Now, I truly believe that when we look at the overall effects of this on society, this hasn't yielded positive results. So again, we ask ourselves as men, who is the alpha male? You, my friend. You are the alpha male. The fact of the matter is that every man in their nature is an alpha male. And as previously stated, due to the media's current involvement and investments in cognitive dissonance, along with the previous government initiatives like welfare, dating back to the 60s, where many minority women were given a literal financial ultimatum, where they were offered an economic floor in exchange for removing the male protector from the home, the societal breakdown of the family has led to the devolution within current political climates and the conflicts that we're experiencing today. Now, as a millennial myself, I can definitely say that we actually had no involvement or investment in these social constructions. We're just kinda holding the bag, simply because we weren't born yet, which wouldn't be an issue, except for the fact that in many cases, these early decisions didn't yield positive possibilities or results for us as a whole. On the contrary, in fact, it's left us with a fragmented political ecosystem and society plagued with confusion, conflict, and in some cases, even corruption. So again, we ask, who is the alpha? You are the alpha. Now, regardless of the popular beliefs, confusion, conflict, and corruption, they're not natural, especially amongst men. And this is something that currently must be understood, especially amongst us millennial men, because in many cases, We're now being offered economic opportunities in exchange for a compromise in our natural beliefs. And in many cases, we've compromised who we are in order to assimilate into society. When in our truest form and essence, many of us felt more naturally rebellious in our nature to these systems and standards, especially during our teenage years and in our early 20s. But it seems that as many of us crossed into our 30s, we had to either adjust our own beliefs and standards for ourselves to fit society's standards for earning income, or be left with an inability to provide for ourselves and our families. Now fast forward to today as we view the world of media, which has undoubtedly been shaping the overall beliefs within our cultural society. Many of us simply can't relate to what we are seeing and hearing presented to us as the voices of the mainstream American masculine male. Again, I say that men are not competitive in their natural state. This is not us. Nor do men have a need for things like racial biases or racism in their natural states either. For if men are competitive and arguing about anything, especially women, then we've effectively done what, my brothers? We've literally left our women unprotected while we banter amongst each other. And this, my friends, is the silver lining in what has happened within our social ecosystem over the past multiple decades, to be honest. I recently heard a very wise woman echoing the sentiment that most conflicts are started either over some money or, excuse my French, over some pussy. And I truly believe that to be true. I believe that within our current social culture, literally all conflicts are started over either one or both of those two things. Now, notice she did not say money and women, and neither did I. And once again, there goes the silver lining, because this is where I believe the family structure has suffered and is experiencing a crisis in our country at this time that currently actually supersedes racial demographics and is occurring for this very reason, this very competitive argument. Our women feel both sexually objectified and unprotected at the same time, gentlemen. And this, I believe, hasn't truly been addressed by society at all, mainly because, this was never the plan when our recent forefathers began manipulating society. I truly believe that during the early days when the blueprints were being laid for our society, there were aristocrats along with their followers, and they created not only the monetary systems and structures to literally offset their own insecurities and feed their interests, but even more so to make sure that this was furthered and that they could seemingly rise to the top, the illusionary top, because there is enough in God's creation and abundance for everyone. So I truly believe that all of our current conflicts as men truly stem more from masculine insecurities than race ever did. The invention of this concept called race was only the perfect tool to divide the unified masculinity of men into manipulatable subgroups for insecure men to rule over all the quote-unquote races of people in society, and use this illusionary concept to hide the fact that all humanity was being sectioned off into a hierarchical caste system with opposing classes that didn't acknowledge the natural evolution that this world was created and built upon, which was actually unconditional love, but then it morphed into survival of the fittest, and even this was buried. Our current belief system allows for men to cheat the natural order of things, superseding masculine instincts, forcing a path for where men are often trading their instincts in for monetization. And this structure was and has been sustained up until recently, where the actual structures in our society are failing the entire population, especially the family and our women. Now, this constructed belief system would have been destined to erode itself due to the natural fact that a man who knows not himself, that man isn't a leader. So if those men who drew up these blueprints in the past weren't the strongest, wisest, or most talented within the community, then they naturally wouldn't have had the ability or foresight to see how this manipulation of society would inevitably yield negative consequences for not only the subordinate subgroups they're ruling over, but ultimately themselves as well. Hence our current situation. It was inescapable for anybody. Everybody is connected, and this is what wasn't understood back then. Now, in the times where our planet experienced a golden age of peace within our world, I truly know, well, it's not that I don't believe, I know that men never, ever needed to have their free will governed by policies. And I don't believe it's a coincidence that in the ancient world, all women were loved and protected and respected in a way that may be unfathomable to us at this current time. For how can you govern or direct the free will power of any man or any woman who already knows where he or she is going? No. In the olden days, a traveling man knew the destination for him and his family because his willpower was fueled by the inspiration of the love of his life, his woman. And this family unit was at the forefront of all communities. Their children represented the compass for the future of the family. This would also be a time where all women felt more than safe. They didn't even have the concept or fears of being vulnerable at all. Vulnerable wasn't even a concern or concept because it simply would not have existed. Hence the term Golden Age and Big Mama. This is why I believe when you look at our parents' generation, many of them came from families of 7, 8, 9, 10, and beyond children. Even sometimes more than that. Because during those days, masculinity was prevalent amongst all demographics and sexuality. This was prevalent amongst all demographics of men, and the children were the value of the family. Now, this wouldn't have been the baby boomers generation. No. For many of us millennials, this would have been the world that the baby boomers were born into, which started to change rapidly for them. This would have been their internet, would be them going from this world into this society that would have been constructed. It would have been confusion, and they would have had to just keep up and would have become extremely materialistic and might not even have been abreast of what was happening. So this would mean that this was actually our grandparents' generation, which is where I believe many of us men and women would need to begin to rediscover and come into realignment with who we truly are as families, community, humanity, and a nation. So again, I ask, who's the alpha? You, my brother. You are the alpha. And the alpha's always been within you.